First is government budget. So we are now discussing government budget. About the government budget, government budget. Okay, what is the government budget? Government budget I discussed before. Now component of budget, we are discussing about components of budget. So this will be the revenue budget and this will be the capital budget. Two components are there. Revenue, first is revenue, first is revenue budget, and second is the capital budget. Two component of the government. Okay, so revenue budget is consist of revenue receipt and neither create any liability nor reduce any asset. So it will revenue budget will neither create any liability and not create any asset. No asset, no liability. What is that? Revenue receipts. Capital budget. Capital budget is what will create the liability, liability and also create the asset. Because there is asset is creating, that's why liability also will be there. Now government budget is budget receipt, that is revenue and capital receipt, and budget expenditure is revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Now budget receipt, government needs funds to finance its activities. So there is various sources to, like tax on goods and services, public enterprises, fee, fine, gifts, grants, and also estimated money received government from all sources during the financial year. So revenue receipt is what? Now we are discussing about the revenue receipt. Revenue receipt is about the tax and non-tax. Okay, so tax receipt is what? Tax is legally compulsory payment imposing by government, and government impose tax on income, sales, manufacturing, transportation. So income, sale, manufacturing, transportation, wealth, gift, export, import, whatever. Okay, so there will be tax, will be a direct tax and indirect tax. So direct tax, when liability to pay tax and burden of this tax falls on that same person. If there is a same person, that will be the direct tax, and this is the income tax. Okay, and corporate tax. Indirect tax, when the liability to the pay tax and burden of that tax can be on different person. If different person in that particular time, then it will the indirect tax. This is the sale tax, excise duty, entertainment tax. Now we are discussing about the non-tax revenue. Non-tax revenue is the commercial revenue. Okay, first is the commercial revenue. Commercial revenue is the received by government by selling goods and services. Second is the administrative revenue. Administrative revenue is the fees. Okay, fees a payment to defray the cost of every purchasing service which is undertaken by government. Fines and penalties. Fees and fines and penalties is the administrative revenue. Fortitudes. Four features. Four features means penalties imposed by government for non-compliance order. And escheat is a claim of government on property, person who dies without having any legal will. Escheat and forfeitures is also in the non receipt payment. Now capital receipt. Now we are discussing about the capital receipt. Capital receipt is what? Capital receipt is the recovery of the loans, recovery of the loan, borrowings. Okay, and other receipt also. So first is capital receipt. Capital receipt is the disposal of asset and liabilities. It's cover both. Okay, and there is a capital account. Capital receipt include market borrowing, external loan, recovery of loan, and advances made by the government and provident fund also. So recovery of loan by the government, by state government, by union territory. Okay, and budget expenditure. What is the budget expenditure? Now we are coming to the expenditure. First is budget expenditure. What is the budget expenditure? Budget expenditure is the expense which the government incur on maintenance or also for the society and economy whole. So expenditure of capital, state, local body, various social, economic, political activities. So component of budget expenditure is the plan expenditure. Plan expenditure is the revenue and plan expenditure which is for the development and non-development, and the capital expenditure for the development and non-development. Okay, so non-plan expenditure. Now we are discussing about the non-plan expenditure. Non-plan expenditure is in the again development and non-development. Okay, and capital expenditure. Capital is again for development and non-development. Okay, so plan expenditure, it is expenditure to incur during the year of the program under 5-year plans. Okay, so provided by the central government for plans to state and union territory. Non-plan expenditure, which is expenditure related to current 5-year plan, related to non-plan expenditure, like poor construction qualities are there. Okay, and capital stock is created and builder against reconstruct the building. Such expenditure is called a non-plan expenditure. Like government construct a school, so but the maintenance officer are not satisfied with the builder. So these kind of non-planned, like we are not planned before that, but now we are planning. So revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure is the revenue expenditure neither creates any asset nor reduce any liability. It is incurred for the normal running of government department, provides the service like salary, pension, subsidy and grant. And capital expenditure either create an asset or produce liability. So purchasing the building and shares. So now development, now balance and surplus and deficit budget. So what is the balance budget? If expenditure is less than receipt, this will the balance budget. If expenditure is more than receipt, this will the deficit budget. If both are equal, expenditure equal to the receipt, this will the balance budget. So surplus budget, it is the one where estimated revenue are more than estimated expenditure. It lower aggregate demand and it's a good strategy to control the inflation in the economy. So over unemployment leading to the employment equilibrium due to the excess demand. Deficit budget is what? When the expenditure is more than the revenue. So deficit budget is not good for the equilibrium. Unbalanced budget is what? It is one where estimate revenue is equal to the estimate expenditure. Now revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is the like investment and non-interest expenditure like subsidies and all that. And revenue receipt is what? This is tax revenue and non-tax revenue. This both are like revenue deficit created by both of them. So the revenue deficit imply many things like this saving, increased liability on the government, reduction of assets, and inflationary pressure will be created in the government. Fiscal deficit is what? Now we discuss about fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipt. Okay, so revenue receipt plus capital receipt. Revenue plus capital receipt both will be included. So implication for the fiscal deficit defect the borrowing requirement of government during the budget year. A high fiscal deficit implies means more borrowings, and thus in the same time revenue deficit because the component of both deficit are similar. So wasteful expenditure will be there, partial use will be there, and primary deficit what? If fiscal deficit minus the interest payment, that will be the primary deficit. Okay, it's create more future problem in the economy also, like borrowing will be increased, in the expenses will be increased. Now revenue receipt is effective revenue deficit. What is the effective revenue deficit? It is defined as the revenue deficit minus that part of the central government expenditure on the revenue account used the creation of capital asset. If there is a revenue deficit minus the capital creation asset will be there, this will be the effective revenue deficit, or made by the state from the grants made available for the central government. Okay, so a capital asset is what asset? Such expenditure is generally made by the states for grants made available for the central government. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. FRBM Act. FRBM Act was there in 2003. So this act came like beginning of 1991. Fiscal reform were started and identify as root cause of twin problem, like inflation was there and balance of payment difficulty was there. So absence of defined mandate, the fiscal consolidation fails to sustain itself. Okay, so July 2004 mainly aim at medium term management, and according to act, revenue deficit was to be the zero or at least 0.5%. Revenue deficit should be the 0.5% of GDP to the end of the financial year of 2009. So fiscal deficit was to be reduced by the amount equivalent to the 0.3% of GDP. This was the FRBM Act end of financial year, and reduced to no more than 3% of estimated GDP. Total will be the 3% of estimated GDP, no more than 3% of total estimated GDP by financial year end of 2009. This is the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. Fiscal marksmanship. What is the fiscal marksmanship? This term refers to the precision or accuracy of forecast, target, estimate in document related to fiscal policy. This is called the fiscal marksmanship. So policy is evaluated not only on overall fiscal marksmanship in term of fiscal and revenue deficit, but effect of dividend. Okay, and fiscal FRBM period and fiscal marksmanship of the central government is like 2009 and 2011-12, and therefore confluence of adverse economic outcomes was there. So it was account of lower receipt due to sharp deceleration in real GDP growth. So that was that's why the government did like 42% will be the given to the states. Okay, and improving the investment, overshooting of the expenditure, and this all about the fiscal markship. What was come in 2009 to 2011-12 as a base year we've taken. Okay, so this all about the budget component of budget we discussed today.